Adam and Rachel O'Connor, 500 points, pine points to each for 1,000 total. Choops K, 500 pine points. And Aaron Arhelm, 250 pine points for you. Welcome, Aaron. I'm a very simple guy. I see a video from PineCreek, and I like it. That's the type of simplicity I like as well. I think as a atheist, I need to congratulate and say when apologists and Christians are correct about things. And I think in this video here, Tim Barnett is correct about many things. He critiques or gives thoughts on a post, on a comment on one of his videos that he made. And, I get a lot of stupid comments on my videos from both atheists and Christians alike. So you got to be really careful, Tim, when you do stuff like this. It's a free country. I love America as a Canadian immigrant. And you could be responding to us, especially in text form, you could be responding to a 16-year-old dirty basement kid. But that being said, I'm going to give alternative of what this 16-year-old dirty basement kid could have said instead of what he or she actually said. It's not even clear to me what gender or what sex this person is. But let's take a listen to how well Tim, and I tagged Tim Barnett, so he's probably here. Tim, don't be shy. Let me know you're here. If you are, here's your opportunity to come on live. In fact, yeah, let me hang on. Let me put this up for you. Is this it? No. This is it. No. Where is it? I used to have a thingy that said, yeah, this is it. But how come it's not coming up? Weird. Anyhow, I'll bring it up later somehow. Here we go.
It's going to be a good one. So a few days ago, I'm scrolling through the comment section of this channel, and I came across something that left me speechless. At first, I wasn't sure if this was serious or if it was just a joke. The comment claimed to offer 10 ways to prove that God doesn't exist.
How do you pronounce that name? Anybody know? Is it Brian? Brian? Does anybody know if this typically is a girl's name or a boy's name? I didn't know.
Just a joke. The comment claimed to offer 10 ways to prove that God doesn't exist. This comment also caught the attention of my friend, Mike Winger, who has a teeny tiny YouTube channel called The Bible Thinker. You probably haven't heard of it. For fun, I challenged Winger to respond to all 10 challenges in less than 2 minutes. Mike said, under 2 minutes? That's 12 seconds each. I don't know if I can do that. I said, fine, 3 minutes. He replied, challenge accepted. But why should Mike get to have all the fun? So because I'm a good sport, I decided to show Winger how it's done. It's time to make Mike my wingman.
Okay, I'm going to poison the well here. This is a philosophical term because he uses philosophical terms all throughout this. And I tell you, this is my advice. This is my opinion. Take it or leave it, Tim. But I know that your whole channel is going to be ruined if you take my advice. But when you're talking to human beings, even on the internet, either in video or text form, if it's not a formal debate, using the word fallacy, which you're about to do, it reeks of I need to raise confidence in those who are doubting of my followers. That's what it reeks like of to me. This is not how normal human beings talk. Your whole YouTube channel called Red Pen Logic is not how normal human beings talk on a day-to-day basis. Like, do you go to the store and when you get in a conversation with someone you know, do you say, oh, that's a fallacy, that's a non sequitur, blah, blah, blah? It's like, no, you don't do that. And I know, hey, atheists are just as guilty of this as Christians are. In fact, what's his name? Matt Dillahunty used to do it all the time. I think he's calmed down now. He's doing it a lot less. But this whole idea that, well, we'll get into it.
This is Red Pen Logic with Mr. B, where we help you assess bad thinking by using good thinking, and we have way too much fun while we're doing it. Today's challenge comes courtesy of Brian Doyle. He offers 10...
Oh, so he pronounces it Brian, but it could be pronounced Brienne. Brienne?
ways to prove that God doesn't exist. Let's see what he's got. Video
Okay, yeah, see, this is mistake number one.
guy, please put 3 minutes on the clock, and let's include a fallacy counter, just because.
Fallacy
Proof number
counter.
one.
Okay, thank you for the donation. Oh, I always see 1111. There has to be a God. Thank you for the donation of $11.11. Happy holidays, Satan. Oh, I saw Santa because you said happy holidays. See how the mind plays tricks on you? Like, you should doubt your reasoning abilities all the time, especially on deeply held beliefs, because I saw it's actually Satan, not Santa. But yeah, thank you for the donation. But here's mistake number one. Not Tim Barnett's mistake. This is, I think this is an atheist mistake. 10 ways to prove that a God doesn't exist. If you want to fail in life, this is the way you talk. It's like, but he or she does put prove in quotes. So I'll give them that. So they really don't mean prove in the strong sense, I guess. But anyhow, let's go on.
The fact that a human being has to tell you about the existence of your God proves there's no God. We would be born with knowledge of its existence.
Yeah, see, and there's no quotes on these proofs. So yeah, just avoid the word proof or prove. In fact, it would be great if the goal would be for all Christians to use that word only. That would show even more defensiveness. The fact that a human being has to tell you about the existence of your God proves there's no God. Like, that's just horrible. We would be born with knowledge of its existence. Okay, let's see what Tim Barnett says.
Offers the first fallacy. It's called a non sequitur. The conclusion just doesn't follow. Human beings have to tell us about the existence of all kinds of things, but that doesn't prove that those things don't exist.
He's
For
right.
example, teachers tell terrified students about fractions, but that doesn't prove there's no fractions. Bad start. Proof number
Okay,
two.
so he goes on to number two. So instead of saying the fact that a human being has to tell you about the existence of your God proves there's no God, we would be born with knowledge of its existence. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that either, but this is what I would say. Let's go. I would rephrase it as 10. And Tim Barnett, you feel free to red pen logic this one, will you? I dare you. Well, you probably could still find some things. I just did this very quickly. 10 ways to doubt that a God exists. Number one, the idea of having apologists defend the existence of a deity seems comical if this God truly exists. How many apologists do we need to defend your existence, Tim? Or your spouse's? Or your own child's existence? You notice what we don't have apologists for. We don't have apologists for things that clearly exist. The goal with a top 10 list like this is to try to get the person who disagrees with you to agree with you as much as possible. And Tim Barnett would find it very difficult to disagree with the idea that we don't have apologists to defend the existence of his wife. We don't. I'm quite sure we don't. Maybe his wife doesn't exist. But now that says something, right? Now, it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't say that there definitely is no God, but it speaks to something. It speaks to the idea of divine hiddenness. And it's a real concern. Okay, let's go to the next one.
A God belief is simple geography. Being raised in a Christian home decides which God you believe in. This is a textbook example of the genetic fallacy.
Is it, though? Is it a textbook definition or example of the genetic fallacy? Usually, the genetic fallacy is used to to say something is true or false based on the origins of it, where the person's from. Oh, this person's from Alabama. Oh, everything they say is false. That's the genetic fallacy, I think, to be precise. But again, this is an example where I will judge Christians. I'll just let you know because I got nothing to hide. I will judge you as being insecure in what you believe if you're just having a normal conversation. You're not in a debate setting and you're saying genetic fallacy, non sequitur. It's like, really, what's wrong with you? Just say, I disagree. Or I think you're wrong here. Or ask questions. But anyhow, let's go on.
You cannot invalidate a belief by showing how someone came to hold that belief.
I agree.
So this proof is about God belief, not about whether or not God exists. Put another fallacy on the board.
So in general, I agree with Tim there. But this is how I would say it. Number 2, one of the best predictors of the type of God belief or no God belief is geography. It's really hard for a Christian to disagree with that. And so I remember when I asked Inspiring Philosophy, we talked about this topic. Even he tried to disagree with me on this, that geography is the best predictor of what you'll believe. And he went so far as to even say that, India is a third Christian, a third Hindu, and a third Muslim or something like that. It's like, no. This speaks volumes. So why is this an issue at all? Geography being a predictor. This speaks volumes on the issue of bias and how much culture plays a role in what we believe, even atheists. Since God beliefs are some of the most cherished beliefs a human can have. Do you disagree with that, Tim? I don't think you do. You cherish Jesus, right? Which could lead to the highest degree of bias. What I'm saying here is you're more likely to be biased about Christianity because you love Jesus. You're more biased about your own children because you love your children. You care about them. I've always said one of the key ways to look at the evidence objectively is to stop caring about it. Become a robot, a moist one, as Frank Turek would say. Stop loving Jesus for 30 seconds. Stop being so grateful that your sins are forgiven and you are having eternal life for 30 seconds. Then look at the evidence. Anyhow, the question is, how do we lower our biases for these deeply held beliefs? In my opinion, this point, number 2, is way better than what this other guy or girl did.
For proof number 2. Proof number 3. There was no time before the Big Bang. So that means that there was no time for a God to exist in or create things in. This challenge mistakenly assumes that God is necessarily a temporal being, that he must exist and act in time. But Christians have tradition.
Yeah, he must exist. Was there a time before the universe was created, but after the angels were created, Tim Barnett? There's so many interesting paradoxes and problems and mysteries with the concept of a deity in time or out of time or both at once.
Traditionally held that God is a timeless being outside of time prior to creation. So there's no proof here.
God is, there's a lot of Christians who disagree with the idea that God is timeless or outside of time. They would say that's false. They're called open theists. They believe that God is basically a super Thor, a super Zeus. He can predict very, very well, but he doesn't know extensively everything. He's actually sequential. See, this is another thing. If you believe in a God that's personal, what do personal gods do? They keep promises. They interact with humans. You got to say that when this God is personal, they are within the time frame of the person they're personal with, right? That makes sense. And even before the creation of the universe, wasn't there angels? But maybe, I don't know, depending on what type of Christian you are, maybe they disagree with that.
Just a straw man fallacy. Proof.
Okay, let's look at what I would have said instead of this person. 10 ways to doubt a God exists. The concept of existence seems to entail time and space. Here's my piece of advice. Instead of making categorical statements, and trust me, I'm the type of guy that I come from a background that's very black or white. I like just saying things the way it is. But when you're talking to people of opposite worldviews or different worldviews, words like seems to are really handy. The concept of existence seems to entail time and space. A God that exists outside of time and space seems like a mystery at best and without meaning at all at worst. And you know what? I think a Christian like Tim would agree with this. Like, what does it mean to exist outside of time, like at zero time, no time, even maybe negative time, I don't know, in a dimension that we're not familiar with, outside any dimension of space that we're aware of? What does existence even mean at that point? I think Christians like Tim get that and say, yeah, Doug, I'll choose door number one. It's a mystery.
Number 4, the Abrahamic God cannot exist because it wasn't the first God to be created. There are other gods that have been proclaimed to exist before this God. They can't all be true, so if we can deny the existence of one of these gods, we can use the same method to deny them all.
This person started out really horrible, but ended pretty good. And I think I agree with Tim Barnett. Oh, I missed some donations. Thank you, Daniel Seamster. Should I doubt the flying man? Flying man equals... No, never doubt the flying man. That's one thing you're not allowed to doubt. And Ken Hoven, CPA, thank you for the donation. Merry Christmas to my second favorite Canadian ever. Your favorite Canadian, first favorite Canadian ever, I think is Saitem Bruggencate, is it not? I think so.
If this is a good argument against God, then it's also a good argument against science, since older false concepts are often replaced by newer true concepts. On Doyle's logic, since
he's right, he's making a great point here, but is he, in making this great point, admitting that Hinduism came before Christianity? Well, no, he definitely would admit that. But would he admit that Hinduism came before Judaism? Even I've talked to a lot of Christians, and a lot of Christians, that doesn't sit well with them to know that the history, at least the recorded history of religion, Judaism is not the oldest.
The older geocentric view is false. We can just deny the newer heliocentric view by the same method. Of course, this is silly. We should weigh the evidence for each theory and for each God. Another non sequitur.
We should weigh the evidence for each God. And that's kind of admitting that other gods exist, maybe? Nah. Okay, that was number 4. Let's see what I would have said instead. Number 4, this is the part I did like about what Brian did say at the end. Many of the reasons people use to deny the existence of gods they don't believe in can be used on the God or gods they do believe in. See, when you phrase it like this, it's really hard, like a guy like Tim, to disagree with that, because he does agree with this. I know it like I know whatever. They believe this. They know that people have spiritual experiences. They know that Muslims use the Kalam cosmological argument to say in the end that Allah is the one true God. They realize that there's many concepts of gods that are all false, or they don't believe are true, and yet people give very similar reasons to believe they're true that they do to believe, let's say, the God of the Bible is true.
Proof number 5. God either allows the devil to exist and is an accomplice, or it isn't an all-powerful God. An all-powerful and all-loving God wouldn't allow the devil to exist.
Yeah, see, look at even the spelling of Isaiah, which makes me think that, Tim Barnett, you and I both are terrible people. What we're doing here is we're picking on probably a 50... Well, I shouldn't say that. There's some older adults with bad spelling. But hey, BB Guard SP, thank you for the donation. Awesome stuff, brother. You have a link to this list so I can repost it on social. Yeah, I guess I can do that. Although I always get, because I'd make these lists so quickly, and then people will nitpick. And maybe that's what happened with Brianne or Brian Doyle. They made it really quickly and weren't really thinking. But yeah, I think I can make it available. I think this is actually a pretty good one. God either allows the devil to exist and is an accomplice, or isn't an all-powerful God. Yeah, I understand that this is a false dilemma, but I think Tim knows where this is going. But let's see what he says.
45:7 KJV. Doyle sets up a false dilemma. It's not an either or. There's another option. God is all powerful and all loving, and God allows the devil to exist because he has good reason to do so. Which is why philosophically trained atheists have largely abandoned this proof.
Just to let Christians know an insider's view from the atheist perspective, at least many atheists that I know, when you say God has good reasons to do so, we throw up in our mouths a little bit. So if you want us to throw up in our mouths a little bit, then keep saying stuff like this, especially the phrase, God has morally sufficient reasons to not intervene with the free will of a rapist, but it respects the free will of the rapist, doesn't intervene, but is okay with the rapist taking away the free will of the rapee, that sort of thing. God has good reasons. Like even putting the word good in front of reasons when you're talking about God, like, does God ever have bad reasons to do things? Of course not. You don't believe that. I know Tim Barnett's version of Christianity pretty well, so.
Fallacy, false dilemma.
False dilemma. Yeah, okay. So I agree that it is a false dilemma and it could have been written way better, but what would I have said for point number 5? I think the gist of it, as Mike Lacona would say, is good. There seems to be a huge tension between a God that is all-knowing, all-loving, hates sin. That's a big one. Ask Christians, does God hate sin? Would he tolerate a little bit of sin? Doesn't want anyone to perish. That's another big one. Does God want anyone to perish, go to hell? Tim Barnett, I think, believes in hell, like the traditional view. Yet creates a world in which he knows or can predict that what he doesn't want, remember, he doesn't want sin. God doesn't want anyone to perish. But he knows or can predict that what he doesn't want will happen if he creates it. That's a pretty big tension. And this is the real problem of evil. The real problem of evil has absolutely nothing to do with humans. It has to do with the fact that if you believe God is all-knowing, he hates sin. I don't want any sin, says God. Not a scotch, not a droplet, not not a nanoliter, not a picoliter of sin. God doesn't want nothing. Now, what will happen if I create? I have no idea. Oh, yeah, I'm omniscient. Yeah, the sin will enter the world to be pain, suffering, natural disasters, horrible stuff. If the traditional view of hell is correct, people will go there and be in conscious torment for eternity. But you know what? It's worth it. Let's do it. I'm all loving. I'm all knowing. Let's go for it. Why not? I'm bored. That's point number 5.
Proof number 6. The God of the Bible is jealous of other gods. This proves that this God is not the only God. With multiple choices, only shows that there is no reason to choose just one. If a God were true, there would be no other options. Exodus 34:14. As a teacher who has given thousands of multiple choice tests over the years, I can say with some authority that multiple choices does not mean that there's no reason to choose just one.
Yeah, I agree with this. You can have a whole bunch of wrong answers and one right one. You can have a whole bunch of wrong gods and one right one. So I agree with this.
There are false answers, just like there are false gods.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about this one is I'm not even sure what Tim Barnett actually believes when it comes to many gods. I think he would struggle with all his might to say, no, there's only one God. But at the same time, okay, in his defense, when he says the word God, he just has one thing in his head. He's thinking of the God he loves. He can't get that out of his head. Creator God, all-knowing, all-powerful, outside of time, all these things, all the omnis and so forth, the God of the Bible. He can't get that out of his head. He cannot even imagine that there could be real gods that exist spiritually, whatever that means, who have power, who can do things, who can gods that can influence people in both positive and negative ways. Maybe he does believe these gods exist because I'm describing Satan, the god of this world. Christians believe in at least two gods: the God they worship and the God that is the Antichrist God type God. And I don't see how Christians could get around this. Now, but they would say, well, this is, I get this so often. And I don't know how many times I have to say this. Your God is so special. Oh, he's so powerful. He's the only creator God. He's unique. Oh, he's so special, so special. But you do believe more than one God, just not the special type of God, the lesser God. Okay, is he done with this point 6?
Another non sequitur.
Yeah, so this guy said, or this girl said, the God of the Bible is jealous of other gods. Yeah, this proves, avoid the word prove. This seems to say that there are many gods existing other than the God of the Bible. That's what you should have said. With multiple choices only shows that there's no reason to choose this one. Like that's weird, a weird sentence. If a God were true, that doesn't make sense either. What does it mean to say if a God were true? If a God truly exists, there would be no other options. See, and that's another assumption. Why couldn't polytheism be true? I don't get that. Okay, so mine is number 6. It seems that the God of the Bible is an unlikely deity that exists because he exhibits a nature that includes jealousy and the desire for real estate for his people. Really? You really believe in a God that is jealous, but he's all powerful, and he is like Donald Trump and likes real estate for his chosen people? For his, what is Donald Trump's children's name? Ivanka? That's his wife, right? Ivana? And Rich? No, I forget. It's been a long time since I've watched Celebrity Apprentice. But you really believe in this creator God that cares about, why won't you worship me? Please worship me. And this little chunk of land called Israel, this is, so have you seen the views? Springtime in Israel, you gotta go, says God. You gotta go. I had nothing against people with different skin color, but and I really like Jews. Man, so my favorite land, match it up with my favorite people, boom. So good. So good. Also, the Bible does say many gods exist. Just ask Michael Heiser. Yeah, I'm not sure if Tim Barnett will buy that. He would special plead it to death and say, but my God's special. Got it. Ivana, Dawn, Eric, Tiffany, and Baron. Yeah, see how you really, Tim Barnett, do you really believe in a God that looks at his children like Donald Trump looks like Ivana, Dawn, Eric, Tiffany, and Baron and says, I got special land for you?
Proof number 7. There is no evidence that spiritual energy exists, so we can conclude that psychics, ghosts, and gods are non-existent.
Yeah, avoid language like so we can conclude. So we provisionally believe that there are no spirits. Like I'm saying, if you're amongst peers, you can say stuff like, so we can conclude. But if you're trying to resonate with a guy like Tim Barnett, this is not how you talk.
Otherwise, God has nothing to be made of. Not this again. An immaterial being, by definition, is not made of material. I'm not going too quickly here.
What is it made of, if anything?
Am I? God is not made of anything.
God's not made of anything. So what does it mean to exist then?
God is spirit. God is spirit, but he's not made of spiritual energy.
What is spirit?
He's immaterial. So this is a straw man. But Doyle might also be begging the question by assuming materialism, that matter and energy are all that exist. Proof number...
Okay, what number was that?
Number 8.
Yeah, it must have been 7. So I would say, if a God is immaterial, what is he exactly? If spiritual, what does that even mean in the context of the word existence? Can someone tell me what the word spirit means without saying what it is not? That's a great challenge for Christians. Tell me what the word spirit means, define spirit without using the negative. In other words, you can't say immaterial because im is the negation of material. See, this is a real problem because you're trying to believe the existence of something that's not made of everything, says Tim Barnett. It's not material. What is it? What is it? It's a mystery, Doug. It's a mystery.
There is no such thing as nothing. For nothing to exist.
Huh? Nothing to exist?
By the way, after this, I'm thinking of watching Capturing Christianity. He's live now. I'm thinking of listening in. Some philosopher guy became a Christian, or was an atheist and became a Christian. See if the PineCreek theorem reigns true.
Would cause it to be something. Creationists believe that God created the universe out of literal nothing. This is an equivocation of the word nothing. By nothing, we mean no thing. That is, God didn't make the universe out of anything.
Oh, there's the Canadian accent. Out of.
Thing. We certainly do not believe that God created the universe out of something that's called nothing. So there's no thing here that disproves God. See what I did there? Proof number 9.
Okay, so instead of saying that, I would have said the cosmos could have existed eternally, thus no God is needed to cause it, if that is true. A material cause outside our space and outside our time could be the cause of our reality if it did start. Well, I'm calling our reality the beginning of the Big Bang. Problems with infinite regress can indeed be applied to a deity like the God of the Bible. Now, this one I think will probably cause the most angst in a guy like Tim Barnett. Maybe not. Because if a Christian can at some point admit to themselves that not our reality, but the cosmos, the material reality, which includes whatever was prior, if that makes sense, to the Big Bang, which could mean the multiverses, if that's true. That reality, the material reality, if that's eternal, you don't need a God to make it. Right? So Christians are going to push back as hard as they can on that because you got to have a need for God. God explains things. And that's a big one. Why are we here? Why is there anything? And if you say, well, this could be eternal just like your God is, you got a problem. And it's true that if God is a God that thinks, the God of the Bible, has thoughts, makes promises, then he is in some type of time. And if he is in some type of time, you can always ask, what did he think prior to that? Like, think about it. If God's outside of time before creation, but he created, before our universe, but he created angels, for example, did he ever make a promise to an angel? If God's outside of time, our time, he could make a promise to an angel and then take it back by just rewinding it's just like every thought, every promise he makes happens simultaneously. It makes no sense to say you have a God that thinks, who has thoughts, and is outside of time. But anyhow, we'd already talked about that.
Isn't a finely tuned world created with us in mind. The sun gives you cancer, most of the water is undrinkable, and diseases run rampant. If there was an intelligent designer, there wouldn't be any mistakes. First, just because you can't drink the ocean or antifreeze doesn't mean they're not designed. They're just designed for another purpose.
I technically agree with that. It could be true that a God designed the oceans not to be drunk by us humans.
Second, something doesn't have to be perfectly designed in order to be intelligently designed.
And I agree with that. There's home builders. Many of them are intelligent, but that doesn't mean that what they design is perfect. But is Tim Barnett willing to say that God's creation? I think he would, because he would say, "Don't the scriptures say, Doug? PineCreek, you know the scriptures. It says clearly that God said it was good when He made the creation after 6 days and then rested on the seventh. That He didn't say it was perfect."
Perfect design is perfectly consistent with intelligent design in a broken world. Number 9.
Yeah, the broken world. It's man's fault. Oh, actually, it's Eve's fault, because she was the one tempted, and then tempted her husband in the flesh to eat of the fruit. So it's really the reason why there's any problems with the design is because of a woman long ago named Eve. But let's see what I said here. Yeah, so the goal here is to really try to resonate with a guy like Tim Barnett, and you get him to use his imagination skills. Would an all-powerful designer, I think Tim Barnett believes that Yahweh's all-powerful and a designer, who has humans in mind when creating. I think Tim Barnett would agree with that when God created the universe, at least partially, He had Tim Barnett in mind, because Jesus died for me. Remember that video I made? Who has humans in mind when creating. Take billions of years, use random mutations, have mass extinctions, and create a universe that is probably 99% inhospitable to life? Really? Tim, you believe in a powerful designer who used that amount of time and that amount of death and chance? It seems like the flat earthers have a point. And what's the flat earthers' point? The flat earthers' point, many of them in the United States are theistic, are Christian even. They say, hey, look, if chemical evolution, if biological evolution, if scientists are right that the universe is, 40 billion light years across, and it took 13 billion years just to get single-celled life on planet Earth, and if it's true that 96 or 97, whatever percent of the universe is dark energy, basically nothing, man, maybe there isn't a God. But if the Earth is flat and has a dome and all those stars are like pinpricks in the top of the dome, and if there's waters beneath and then 4 pillars and turtles all the way down, well, even I think, have to become a theist if that were true. Does that resonate with a guy like Tim Barnett at all? Now, I know there's Hugh Rosses of the world say, well, just look how brilliant Yahweh was. He realized that in order for life to be sustained anywhere in the universe, we needed 96% dark energy and all this empty space in order to make things work, to push things out and so forth. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that after the fact you can ad hoc say, yeah, isn't God brilliant for how He did it? Okay.
9 offers another non sequitur. Proof number 10. Evolution is obviously proven and true. This means that we weren't created by magic and are somehow superior to the animal kingdom. No creator, no God. Biological evolution.
See, even that's wrong. Well, no creation, no God, I think wouldn't it be funny? I think it would be hilarious if a God does exist outside of time, and our universe has existed co-eternally with God outside of time in eternity past. That'd be hilarious. In other words, a God exists but didn't create our universe. Hey, thank you for the donation, Sanjeev Sharma. Like Joe Piscopo used to call Sinead O'Connor Mr. Clean. Doug, please call Tim Barnett Mr. Clean a couple times. Yeah, he does have that Mr. Clean vibe to him.
Even if true, has nothing to do with the existence of God. It has to do with God's alleged role in biology. That's all.
I'm curious, Tim, do you believe evolution via common descent? Yes or no? Let your viewers know.
Darwin was right, atheists can still be wrong, as shown by a large number of theistic evolutionists.
He's right here. A God could exist and common descent be true at the same time.
So this is another non sequitur. Despite what you've been told, evolution doesn't disprove God.
Evolution does not disprove God. I agree with that. However, would be my point number 10. Evolution may not disprove the existence of a God, but it sure seems like Jesus and the God of the Bible, which are the same person, didn't think evolution was true. Now, Tim Barnett might push back on that, but didn't Jesus refer to Adam and Eve when it came to things like divorce? Didn't Paul definitely refer to Adam and Eve when it came to how sin entered the world and how through one man's sin entered, through one man's sin was atoned for? Were guys like Jesus and Paul wrong? Because if evolution is true, the idea of a literal Adam and Eve coming from the rib of Adam, the idea of them being the first male and female on the planet is wrong if evolution is true. Now, I know all the ways around this. I know many Christians believe that there was many humans around when the figurative Adam and Eve were around and were, infused with soulness and all this stuff. I get that. But I don't think Tim Barnett believes that, by the way. Maybe he does. Maybe I'm wrong. But the point of this number 10 here is, if we had a time machine, Tim, Mr. Clean, if we had a time machine and went back and found Jesus in the first century Palestine area and asked him about common descent, do you believe evolution to be a common descent? Were Adam and Eve real literal people? What do you think, Tim, Jesus would say? It's a fun hypothetical. We don't know. Nobody knows for sure. But if you were a betting man like I am, wouldn't you bet that Jesus would say, what do the scriptures say? It says in Genesis that God made Adam and then from his rib made Eve. Can't you imagine Jesus saying that? And if he did, Jesus was wrong, right? If you accept evolution via common descent. Or do you think Jesus would actually say, shh, don't tell anyone? But most people think the earth is flat. Most people think that the earth is, 6,000 or so years old, and that Adam and Eve were a little, like most of these Jews here, they believe that, but shh, don't tell anyone. Actually, it took 13.6 billion years, and 90% of the every species that ever existed went extinct when a big meteorite hit the ground and at Gulf of Mexico. And man, I saw it. It was amazing. But you guys, you humans didn't even exist yet. And then me and Yahweh, or we're the same person, but we use like what's called mutations. And it's just random chance. It's like hilarious how we did it. It's like me and Yahweh, we laugh at each other when we think about how many years we took to make these chosen people that are now I'm a part of. But yeah, the people here are not ready for that yet. Don't tell them. They'll figure it out about 2,000 years from now. They'll get it right. But for now, if you tell them these things, they will doubt their faith too much. And right now, we got bigger fish to fry, and that's that the kingdom of God is near. Right, Tim Barnett? Isn't that what Jesus would say? Yeah, my best impression is my Jesus impersonation, Silky Johnson. Okay, so Tim Barnett, I dare you to red pen my top 10 here. Let's bring it back up here. Yeah, I'll make it available, I guess. Okay, is capturing Christianity going on? I want to see how a philosopher becomes a Christian. Let's see here.
Edge. So a horse comes into existence from something else, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's going. Okay. It's number one, show your face if you were an atheist and you became a Christian. Because you got to any atheist that becomes a Christian was not a true atheist. And even if I'm wrong about that, I have to see your eyes so I can look into your soul. I'm an atheist who doesn't believe in souls, but when it comes to fibbing, I got to see into your eyes. Okay, let's see what.
But anyways, thanks for coming on. How should I refer to you, by the way? It's just Elephant, Ellie, E-E-P? How should I refer to you?
Pascal, if you want.
Pascal, okay. Well, Pascal,
Yeah,
tell
that's
the
my-
audience a little about who.
See, and here's another thing. How do we know how old this guy is? Is this like a Tim Barnett thing where he's responding to a 14, 15-year-old dirty basement kid who just took a little bit of time off from playing what's the new game nowadays? I don't know. Mario Kart 8. That's not a new one.
You are. And by the way, I should mention that I've got your YouTube channel linked in the description of this video. So if you want to check out Pascal or EP or Elephant Philosophy, his YouTube channel, some of his videos and everything, the link.
And thanks for shouting me out. When you did that, I had 200 to 250 followers. I don't quite remember. Afterwards, I had 1,800. So thanks for that. Now to
Guess the accent. What accent is that? Is that, I'm going to guess, is it Danish?
for that. Yes, I am just a regular dude from Europe, very secularized Europe, and I was growing up, so to
Where in
say, a
Europe?
very convinced atheist. So, and due to the internet, due to YouTube starting, due to the wave of the new atheists coming on, I got into philosophy, religion, and completely changed my whole worldview. I can give you, if you want a very basic backstory.
See, now, if I was Cameron here, the first thing I would ask is, so what's your wife's name? Oh, you're not married. What's your girlfriend's name? Oh, you don't have a girlfriend. Okay, move on. Oh, so cynical, right?
I would say Europe is a very secularized place, and most people will still self-identify as Christians, but they're not really practicing.
He's
Christians,
German?
right? I believe many of them are just theist-leaning agnostics, and the strong process of secularization, especially in Northern and Western Europe, especially happened with younger people. And in my teens, I was definitely non-religious, atheistic, really.
Teens?
Yeah, I mean, I refer
interested
to you as a hardcore
quantum-
atheist. Sorry to interrupt you, but would you identify as that, or like someone who's just really convinced?
Define hardcore atheist. It's like, I eat at least 3 babies a week.
No, not really. I was sympathetic to the goodwill of the people in the Christian faith, but I never, once in a million years, would have considered theism or Christianity, especially, to be true. So I was interested in quantum mechanics and physics in general, and moderately interested in philosophy, I'd say, but deeply entrenched in a mindset that takes the non-existence for God as just a self-evident, right? As an antiquated worldview, a relic of the past that has simply been.
Pascal. Oh,
This is just not the truth for
There he
many
is.
people. I think it's
Hey,
just
Pascal,
obvious to them.
See, I can fast forward this,
And they
these
got going around
problems.
the same time, and I was listening to them, and back then I thought they're at least not afraid to state the obvious. They were very straightforward, stating that God is a man-made myth. Claims of the theistic religions, according to them, were just false. And around the time, I thought such honesty is actually refreshing. And Christopher Hitchens was simply a phenomenal speaker, charismatic, hyper-eloquent bloke, somebody who was fun to listen to. So when he published his book, God is Not Great,
Do we know how old this guy is? He mentioned being a teenager and an atheist.
Dinesh D'Souza, Douglas Wilson, even Al Sharpton, a lot of people. And I felt he was doing great until he
Yeah, that's a German accent.
stuff. And that was, of course, William Lane Craig. And yeah, Craig actually made a case for the existence of God, a case that simply overwhelmed Christopher Hitchens. Craig laid out an analytically precise, well-structured, validly formalized arguments,
I'm just listening to this, Ed, to see if the PineCreek theorem is correct.
right? And Craig wiped the floor with him. And yeah, Hitchens had no clue how to deal with sophisticated arguments for the existence of God. And that's how it sparked my interest, and I got to know a whole new world for, sophisticated philosophy of religion, and it all started from there.
that's really cool. It's kind of similar to my story. The first person that I came across who actually gave like a really, if you want to use the term, like
Yeah, it does kind of sound like he's
Analytic.
reading from a script a little bit. I'm noticing there's only 242 people watching this live, and there's 228 people watching me watching this live. It's funny.
he's actually been on my channel a few times. So if you guys know who he is, then definitely check out our archives. But so
He's 44, says Benjamin? Or you have on good authority that he's 44 years old?
Dr. Craig that you continue to look into, or did you take me the next step of the way?
Just say,
The PineCreek theorem basically is that the women have converted more people to Christianity than the Holy Spirit could ever do, but it can work both ways. Men have converted more women to Christianity than the Holy Spirit could ever do. In other words, that you really want to push the buttons of the Christian philosopher types, especially the Catholics. Tell them that Ed Feser became a Catholic not because of the philosophy, the 5 ways, and all that sort of thing. It's because he met a beautiful Christian Catholic woman in his late 20s, early 30s, late 20s, mid 20s, in there somewhere. I looked into it. I can't say for sure, but
there are secular atheist
Pascal, you cut out.
just completely destroys. To find the atheist philosopher that really destroys Craig, and there was none. Even the sophisticated atheist philosophers, they made their case and they said reasonable things, but it wasn't like they were destroying it.
I was an atheist, and I was looking for atheist philosophers that could destroy William Lane Craig, and I found none. So therefore, I became a Christian. Is that it?
Back then. Also around the time, there was a great website called Common Sense Atheism by a guy called Luke Muehlhauser. I think you know him. Do you know the site?
Mm-hmm.
And that was
he had a podcast
he
as
had
well.
That point. Yeah, he had a great podcast, but he made the point: the new atheists do not know what they're talking about, and they're getting destroyed by sophisticated theistic philosophers.
Even if all that were true, the real issue is why accept Christianity. Let's just assume atheism is false, let's assume atheism. All atheists are dumb philosophically. Let's just assume that. That's not a reason to accept Christianity. So hopefully he gets there.
Argument. I think that might actually be really cool. And then also, I definitely want to touch on what kind of convinced you to embrace Christianity in particular. You identify as a Christian, is that right?
Exactly right.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome.
Well, tell me about that too. It's also.
Yeah, I watched your video on your story as well. So if you guys want to hear more about his story,
wait a minute. Did we skip the part when he believed in God? Was it just because he couldn't find any philosophers to do battle with William Lane Craig, and so therefore God exists? And he watched some YouTube channels about,
actually kind of go into some detail on this. On his channel, he's got, I think, 3 total videos, so 2 on theism, and then the other one is some philosophical arguments for Christianity. I assume that those played a part in your journey, but we'll talk a little bit more about them today in this interview. But let's go through some of the arguments. What was like the first argument that you were like, okay, now I'm convinced by this?
I don't know if the first that I was convinced.
Ben Diesel says, I think he became a theist because his atheist friends didn't sympathize with his bloviation. You know what, Ben? That could be. It's like some people just love to ruminate in their own thoughts and then turn that thought rumination. You guys know, for those of you who weren't raised on a farm, rumination, when I think of the word, at least, being raised on a farm, is a cow chewing its cud, and then digesting it, and then it goes into all the stomachs and so forth. It's like, if you are a atheist philosopher type, and your atheist friends are, shut up already, we don't care, get out of here. Oh, but these Christian philosopher types, they will listen to me, I can have great conversations. So maybe it is still the PineCreek's theorem, except not with the opposite sex.
But the first argument is often the kalam. It's precise, concise, and is way easily formulated on the surface of it. You can easily understand what it's talking about, and that was the other one that I thought I kind of have to deal with that. And yeah, that was
the kalam has nothing to do with Christianity.
Something like the entry to sophisticated philosophy of religion. I quickly came to kind of realize that the universe was probably not past eternal. So my thoughts were more directed at a B-theoretic view of time, according to which time is a quasi-spatiotemporal axis, and the universe just exists as this four-dimensional object. That was actually based on a...
I'm wondering if you would say that God is probably not past eternal?
On a well-known quote by William Lane Craig, who said that the kalam is basically based on a 10th or 8th theory of time. And that was my view. I didn't want to be an atheist because I thought the universe is past eternal. And I thought that Craig's argument...
I didn't want to be an atheist because I didn't think the universe was past eternal.
Or not just William Lane Craig's, but the general arguments against an infinite past were very, very strong. So I thought, well, I don't want to base my worldview.
It's interesting to me, like how to. Well, I'm sure there's ways that this guy will try to say that. Oh, but the infinite regress problem doesn't apply to God because he's outside of time, but he's still personal and has thoughts. He can still will things into existence, but you can't ask the question what happened before his willing something into existence. You can't ask that question because if you do, then you can start the infinite regress going back.
On an improbable proposal of an infinite past, so I really have to deal with the universe having a past space-time boundary, and then we have to look, well, does it need a cause? And that was basically, which is now, I think, still a very, prominent view among atheists, that there is this B-theoretic conception of time according to which the universe is not really in need of an originating cause, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of Graham Oppy's view, right?
What wasn't Cameron's question? How did you become a Christian?
Right. He thinks there's a first cause, but he thinks that first cause is necessary. That came out in the debate that you just reviewed between him and Andrew Loke.
Yeah, that's also a little bit different, but it's...
Hey, Reed, good to see you here.
It's a general view that on a B-theory of time, it's not true that...
Okay, I'm going to offend the philosopher types listening right now, but I could care less about A and B theory of time. Let's get to the point where this stuff matters. How he lives his life, where the rubber hits the road.
B theory is true. So I'm having trouble seeing how B theory poses any kind of threat whatsoever to
Blah, 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 blah.
From something else, right? You've mentioned this a couple times now, metaphysical chaos, if you deny the causal principle.
Just like this, Cameron usually gets...
I'll leave it there. Let's move on to ontological arguments. Have you, in your...
Like, Cameron usually gets way more viewers than this. In fact, I'm only 10, 20 behind him right now. And Cameron, this is the reason. Nobody cares about philosophy, or this type of philosophy. And when I say nobody, I mean almost everyone. Sure, there's some.
Basic form. They just state that if the traditional concept of God is coherent, then God exists. And I think the concept of God is coherent.
Which one?
Okay. What about the reverse ontological argument? How do you respond to that? So the reverse ontological argument says, well, it seems possible that God doesn't exist. It seems possible that atheism is true, in the same way that it seems possible.
Yeah, the ontological argument has to be this. In a way, I like the ontological argument because it is kind of intuitive. It's intuitive that it's stupid. It's like, I can just imagine, I can think, I can cognitively think about Santa having a property called existence. And if this is not the true, real Santa, then he would, in order for this true Santa to exist, one of these properties has to be his existence. And because I can imagine it. So therefore Santa exists. And of course, oh boy, did I straw man that, right?
For the ontological argument to succeed, when it seems like you could just use the same type of argument for the reverse ontological argument and
yeah, nobody cares.
I mean, we could talk about that all day. And let's move into some of your reasons for embracing Christianity in particular.
There we go.
So we've
finally,
gone through a list of arguments so far.
Okay, so we're
for traditional arguments in favor of the truth of theism.
Oh, we're
what
live.
About Christianity. What was it about?
I've caught up.
What argument or philosophical argument led you to embrace Christianity?
Here we go. Let's go.
Okay, so I first want to say something about this. I'm not against the historical case for the resurrection, but I have a worry that such a case might create a false expectation. So I'm skeptical about the scope of such argumentation. I don't think it can establish...
Whoa, did you guys catch what he just said? He has reservations about the resurrection because it leads to false expectations. Darn tootin' it does. If you believe that a God intervenes in humanity to raise people from the dead, then if your wife dies, man, I pray in the name of Jesus. Woman, stand up. Thou stinketh.
the resurrection with an overwhelming certainty. Rather, it can shift the probabilities structure so that the odds, if you will, aren't completely stacked against it, but slightly favor it. But if the idea arises that Christianity can only be rationally accepted as being true if one has this
This is another thing that bothers me. Who cares if people view you as rational or not? Do you need this? Do you need people to... Oh, this elephant man guy. Elephant man. What's his name? Look away. I'm hideous. This elephant man guy it seems to me, has this insecurity. He needs people to view him as rational. I can understand if you're wanting your spouse or your loved ones or your kids to think of you as rational, but complete strangers on the internet, who cares?
Overwhelming proof of the resurrection on historical grounds, then I think that's detrimental. It creates the illusion that there are no lines of evidence for the truth of Christianity apart from historical facts, and I think that's just wrong. If we already accept theism, then I think we can base our reasoning on the assumption that God exists. And then if that's true, we can ask the question, is it reasonable to think that God has revealed himself in history?
Oh, this sounds like Braxton Hunter's shtick. PineCreek, his name is John Merrick. Okay, well, John's a good name. So instead of Elephant Man, I'll call him John.
And if we believe that, then by that line of thinking, if we agree that God likely already revealed himself, now we can actually compare religions, right?
Yeah, this is so incredibly stupid. El stupidro. Well, if we just imagine that God has already revealed himself or would desire to reveal himself into humanity, I can tell you where this is going. Well, it would make sense that the best way to reveal himself to humanity as a person, a man, God in flesh, who walked among us. And so that puts Christianity head and shoulders above any other religion. But this man, he not only walked among us, but he died and he rose again. It's like, how did you figure out, Elephant Man John, that this is more likely than people writing stories? That's the real question you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, would you like me to pick up here?
Yeah, well, you can say.
Yeah. So this almost sounds like Richard Swinburne's approach in his book, The Resurrection of God Incarnate, where he basically argues that you've got to inflate the prior probability of God's wanting to become incarnate and do something like a resurrection. So
yeah. God did want to become incarnate, but he had to test the waters first. First, he used the incarnation through a burning bush. Then he used his incarnation as a cloud. You know, some of you flag-waving phony Christians out there think that God's a Trinity, but really he's a hexity. He's a hexity. Burning bush. God revealed himself as a burning bush to Moses, as a cloud to the Israelites on many occasions, as the Holy Spirit, as a lying evil spirit, deceptive spirit, as Jesus, and as Yahweh. There's 6. And it just only makes sense that God would desire to reveal himself this way.
that sounds to me like it would go sort of hand in hand with a historical case, not necessarily that it would be in conflict with one.
No, I don't think that's a conflict at all. I would just think if we think about
your point was that it paints false expectations.
Yeah, I don't like it. Get the idea that unless you are just totally convinced on the basis of historical facts, you cannot really become a Christian, because it creates this idea that only historical facts can guide you to the truth. And I think that's often detrimental. I would rather think that if we already accept that God has revealed himself in history, well, then we can look at religions and we can look at what kind of picture of the human predicament they have, of the human fate, of morality, and we can compare them. And then we can see what religion comes to the truth. And I think that's also a good way of getting the truth, sort of by abductive reasoning. We just look what kind of options we have, and then we get to the truth that way.
So, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to really offend Christians here, but this is like saying, to me, this is like saying, look, there's like thousands of piles of shit out there. There's many piles of shit, but this pile of shit is the best pile of shit. And so this pile of shit has to be, it just makes more sense that this is the true pile of shit. Isn't it more likely that every single religion on the planet is wrong when it comes to God claims? Mm-hmm. My apologies for the non-farming raised people in the crowd who think shit is a swear word.
From certain historical facts. I just don't think they should be the only game in town.
Okay.
He sounded like he said
so
it
you
too.
see them all as sort of working together. But yeah, so that is good though. Oh, okay. So I think my concern though is that so I guess you're wanting to combine history and philosophy. I'm trying to paint your view here in a way that makes.
Cameron, this camera is too hot. What happened there?
But why would that necessarily be that somebody only takes historical facts or only philosophical facts? Life is complicated. There are a lot of factors to weigh in on a certain decision.
I can tell you, Cameron, why he's talking like this. He's talking like this because he loves philosophy. And if you focus too much on the historical part, then his baby philosophy gets ignored, and he doesn't want to be ignored because my other guess is he knows way more about philosophy than he does about history. And so, let's not focus on history.
I'm going to try to blow some cold air on my camera, see if I can get it working. But for the rest of this interview, it's going to be super visually compelling. Black, half.
Hey, Mad Metro, thank you for the donation. Had to donate for the swear. Well, yeah, someone had to do it.
Considerations that led you toward Christianity. Did the historical case, like the traditional historical case from Gary Habermas, Mike Licona, even William Lane Craig, who we've already talked about, and Richard Swinburne, who I've talked about as well. There's a lot of other guys that have done work on this. But did that argument play a role for you as well?
Yeah, it's showing me that the evidence is far better than somebody who had never delved into it could possibly imagine. Because the normal thing is, it's just, and I think you mentioned it also, that you had certain doubts pertaining to even the existence of Jesus until you looked into it, and that's certainly the same with me. I didn't know what kind of evidence there was for the gospel narratives or anything. And if you're looking at people produce evidence, that's very important. I'm not against historical evidence at all.
Yeah.
What did he just admit there? That he believed in Jesus before he even knew the evidence?
To even the existence of Jesus, somebody who had never delved in.
But did that argument play a role for you as well?
Yeah, it's showing me that the evidence is far better than somebody who had never delved into it could possibly imagine. Because the normal thing is, it's just, and I think you mentioned it also, that you had certain doubts pertaining to even the existence of Jesus until you looked into it, and that's certainly the same with me. I didn't know what kind of evidence there was for the gospel narratives or anything. And if you're looking at people produce evidence, that's very important. I'm not against historical evidence at all.
Yeah. I did have that. I mean, I had.
What's the historical evidence for Christ existing? Forget about Jesus. Jesus is irrelevant if Jesus is just a man. Well, I shouldn't say irrelevant, but not as relevant as him being the Christ, God in flesh, right?
I had that doubt for I think 30 minutes. I was doubting whether or not Jesus existed, and then I found Josephus. And
let me be very clear to the Christians listening, because they don't understand. Some of them don't understand the difference between Christ and Jesus. Christ is a traveling preacher who could do miracles and rose from the dead. Jesus is a traveling preacher that did none of that stuff. Most humans on the planet are Christ mythicists. Most humans on the planet are not Jesus mythicists. Okay, is that clear? Tony D says, I will give you $20 to say the F word. Holy smokes. Gosh darn it. Oh, $20. What can I buy with $20? Maybe we should get a bidding war going here. I'd feel so dirty. They're still talking, by the way. I haven't paused it.
with a ridiculous amount of certainty. It's.
I'll throw in 10 on top. We're at 30. Okay. But my kids are right outside the door. How loud do I have to say it? Yeah, that's another thing. How loud? I could whisper it, but even then I'd feel dirty. Don't sell your soul, Doug. Hey, I'm a gigolo.
Crazy, and I didn't think I was going to find that. So I'm totally on board with you there. That it's a whole lot stronger than I was expecting to find.
I also think that people should look into Tim and Lydia McGrew's work on the resurrection, and they have this paper with.
Okay. I know where John, what's his name? Creason? John, Elephant Man John is coming from now. If he cites Tim and Lydia McGrew. Must be audible for all to hear. 45. We're up to $45? Do it for Jesus. I'm serious though. I don't want to. I don't want to. Is this guy trolling Cameron? Sanjeev, that is a real possibility. But I don't think so. There's only fans here. There's no one I can offend here, right? Okay, I'll tell you what. Hang on a second. If I tell my kids to put their fingers in their ear and I come back in here, you'll pay me, Kevin Wright will pay me $80 not to say the F word? Oh, now we got a bidding war. So I guess we need to get over $80 for me to say the F word. Don't do it, Doug. Hey, Reed, you're still in the live stream chat. What do you say? I got to hear what these guys are saying too.
It's very good.
Yeah, they're great. I've had Tim on the channel a couple times as well. Lydia too. They're both awesome. They're both really cool. Okay, well, are you open to taking some questions from the live audience?
Okay, I'm going to do something here. If I was home alone, Susan Gibbard, Susan's putting her money where her mouth is. PineCreek's for sale. Let me do this. I'm not ending the stream. But I got to go check something. $20 to say the S word. I already said the S word. Okay, so I'm going to get the kids out of the house. Thank you, Anthony Chapman, F Word Fund. What's the worst that could happen? You know how many hungry children I could feed with the F money? What's worse, saying I work for Satan or the F word? Ooh, Lou Core, I hate it when people use reasoning with me. I asked my kids to take the dog for a walk, but they're not gone yet. I gotta say it in context. I just can't say the one word. So someone write out a sentence I have to use the word in. The best short sentence with the F word will probably win. Thank you for the donation, Mark Beckham. Wake up the children. Call the kids. Call the apologists. Yeah, you've seen this clip before of the Blues Brothers. Whale oil beef hooked. Whale oil beef hooked. What does the F word mean? Say Carlin's 7 words. And then after he flew the flying... Okay. You know what's so stupid about this? There's probably a ton of Christians out there who could say the F word and I can't. That's what's stupid about this. Look how powerful the way you're raised is. I don't even fear hell, but I fear saying the F word. But juggling lessons, that's going to be a hard one to beat. Topless for 50. No, I'm not going topless. Okay, I'm going to see if my kids... I'm going to play one more clip here. Let's see. Are you guys going for a walk yet? Oh, he's in his room? Knock on my door just before you leave. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to find a video here to play. The people who pledged better show up. Let's see here. Which is my favorite one? PineCreek, me. Yeah. Yeah, you're going?
It wasn't.
Are you off? Okay, make sure the door is all the way closed, okay? Because it sometimes blows open. And let her sniff around let her get a good sniff of the grass. I don't hear the door closing.
Just this massless, amorphless kind of general love, but not for anybody specific. No, when Christ died on the cross, he loved me, Tyler Vella. Right? He died specifically and canceled my record of debt against him. Right? He propitiated God towards me. Right? God is actually propitious. He is satisfied. That's what propitious means. The wrath against the debt has been turned away. Right? On something like Will's view, the wrath has not been turned away. Right? Unless you want to be a universalist, the wrath has not been turned away because people are going to experience wrath in hell.
Okay, they're gone. Okay, so here it is. Do we do it in background music? What am I saying again? Okay. Make sure you got your recording devices on, because this is like one time maybe. I think I've said it once before, but it was like on Blab, and it was I had to have a guy here walk me through it, and it was slowly, sound by sound. So I want to tell a story. Oh, I need some romantic royalty-free copyright. Let's see here. Romantic music. Royalty-free romantic music. I think that will help. Here we go. How's that sound? Should I make the music a little louder? Thank you for the donation, John Eggstrom. So I'm glad 246 people could make it today. I want to tell you a little story. It's a story about an ancestor of mine who lived long ago. God in heaven loved my ancestor. He loved him so much that it gave him special powers. One of these powers was to fly unaided. Long ago, my ancestor ran towards the edge of the Grand Canyon and flew. 500 people saw him fly. His 12 closest friends saw him fly. And lastly, he flew in front of a guy named Myron. And then after the flying man flew, the flying man fucked his wife. Thank you for the donation, Matt Metro. Do I hear trumpets? Merry Christmas to us all. Thank you for the donation, Tony D. You now have a ticket in the VIP section on the express train to hell. Congrats. Thank you for the donation, excuse me, but free your mind and the rest will follow. In Vogue. Thank you for the donation, Humbly Questioning. Thank you for the donation, Uber Scheiser. Oh crap, that was great. Thank you for the donation, Anthony Chapman. Look at this, I'm so embarrassed I can't even show my face. What's wrong with me? Show your face, PineCreek. Do it. I can't. No, do it. But I'm embarrassed. Embarrassed for what? Saying the F word? You're a wuss, PineCreek. Nobody loves you, PineCreek. Show your face, PineCreek. Thank you for the donation, Mike Ortez. You could turn this into an annual telethon. No, I'm not raptured, Michael. Michael, thank you for the donation. Thank you, Sanjeev. Myron's wife or the flying man's wife? No, the flying man's wife. I did it. I'm going to hold my head up high. I'm going to face life in the eyes. I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to run from who I am. And who am I? I'm a guy who sometimes says the F word. Hey guys, this has been fun. I'll repent later. Take care.